I'm Sonnet Stanfill, Senior Curator of Fashion at the V&A, and we're here today because we're going to be doing another unboxing. We're going to be looking at one of my favorite objects in the V&A fashion collection, which is a dress designed by the Italian designer Gianni Versace. The design was one that was worn on the catwalk by supermodel Naomi Campbell. She worked with Versace over a number of years, so she was really well known to the house and was one of Versace's most favorite models. One of the things I'm curious to discover is whether there are any clues on the dress that might suggest whether this is the actual dress that she wore when she strode down the runway. So this is a dress that was part of Gianni Versace's 1997 couture collection. The dress is also significant because that 1997 collection was the last collection presented before he died. So it holds a kind of poignant significance in the history of the house. So before we unbox, I just wanted to point out that I am wearing gloves. This dress is quite robust, so I'm very comfortable that it can withstand the rigors of handling with gloves, and it just gives me that little bit of extra comfort that any oils or kind of residue that are on my hands won't transfer to the material of the dress. So I'm about to take the lid off the box, and I just wanted to point out that this is an archival box, so it's designed for historic garments. It's made from archival material, which means that it doesn't have chemicals in it that would potentially harm the garments, so it's chemically inert. And it was designed specifically for kind of long evening dresses, hence the kind of long rectangular shape. So first I'm going to take the lid off, and I'm curious to see what the packing situation is inside. And one of the things that I really love about the way that the V&A packs its garments is that we take great care. In typical V&A fashion, the garment is supported and packed with all kinds of specially formulated shapes. This is a sausage roll made from tissue, and it's layers of tissue that have been rolled up and then on the ends tucked in. And it just has that really nice kind of cushiony shape that helps to fill the box, and if there's any jostling, it protects and cushions the garment inside from any damage. So that's the sausage. In addition, we have this shoulder pad shaped disc, which, like the sausage, has been formed by several layers of tissue, but rather than a long oblong shape, they're gathered and sort of scrunched underneath as you work round. In addition to kind of filling a box to keep the garment from jostling around, this can be used inside the garment to kind of pad out the bodice or the skirt. So I've taken all of the tissue out now, and I can see the dress in all its glory in the box. And before we take it out, I thought I would just give you a little sneak preview of what's in store. So as you can see, this is an evening dress made of leather, and it's embellished with an appliqued cross. It's got diamantes that sparkle and catch the light. In addition to being from the spring-summer collection, it's the atelier or couture line of the House of Versace, so it was meant to be made to measure for the individual client. So I've just taken the dress out of the box so that we can look at it closely. And here it is. Isn't it wonderful? So this is one of my favorite pieces in the V&A's collection, partly because it's this wonderful combination of, it's an evening dress, but it's made of leather. Also because of the surface embellishment. It's just so sparkly and fabulous. And if you can see from the way that it's appliqued, it's basically a kind of cross shape, which is embroidered all over with sequins and diamantes. And we know that Versace visited museums regularly, and he used museum exhibitions and collections as sources of inspiration for his work. The year that this was made, 1997, visited an exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum called The Glory of Byzantium. And he took from that exhibition inspiration and used a lot of kind of religious iconography and symbols like this cross on items in his collections. Often In addition to bold symbols like the cross on this dress, in a Versace design from this period, you also might see really over-the-top and bold print in his textile designs, and also a lot of metallic detailing like studs, buckles. There's a lot of hardware on some of his designs, particularly leather. That kind of maximalist over-the-top approach is so Versace, and it makes this dress kind of quintessentially Gianni Versace, which is why I love it so much. Another thing I really love about this dress is that it's so beautifully pieced together. Seeing it up close reminds me of the kind of craftsmanship and the facility with leatherworking that Versace and his atelier, kind of had at their fingertips. Because the dress is composed of a series of panels that are stitched together a bit like a jigsaw. The seams go down the center front, and also around the hips. And because of the way that they've been cut and seamed, the dress almost skims the body really fluidly, and it would have moved very beautifully with the wearer. It flares out slightly from the bottom of the hips to the floor, so creating a kind of fishtail hem that sort of surrounds the feet of the wearer to give it a really nice kind of flow and fluid shape. One of the elements that's really quite subtle but actually shows a lot of skill and technique is at the top of the bodice features some lovely stitching details where that little bit of extra padding, I think, must have provided kind of comfort and cushioning for the wearer so that the dress wasn't too tight or constricting across the top of the bodice. In addition, you can see on the side of the quilting, it finishes with a little bit of extra stitching, almost like it's been quilted or stitched down, which is a lovely detail. And as you would expect in a couture dress, the entire dress is lined with a kind of petticoat of the same color. I wish I could say it's silk, but I think it's polyester. It helps keep the dress from touching the skin, so it protects it and makes it last longer, but it also is just a nicer feel for the wearer. So we've looked at the front and we've looked at the back, and now it's time to open up the dress and look inside. And what I'm hoping is that we might find clues as to whether this was the actual dress worn by Naomi Campbell on the catwalk. So I've just unzipped the dress. We're going to now open it up and see what's inside. So here's the label, Atelier Versace, confirming that this is a dress from the Versace Atelier line, which is the made-to-measure couture line. I'm a little bit disappointed that it doesn't have Naomi's name anywhere. Sometimes that might be kind of stitched on, or in the case of other garments, written on, but no. And also, the dress is in remarkably good condition. It looks like it's never been worn. Sometimes inside you might see a telltale sign like a bit of perspiration. On the one hand, it's really wonderful that this dress is in such good condition. But on the other hand, I'm a little bit disappointed that there's no kind of signs of wear that would give us a clue that this was the actual dress that was worn by Naomi Campbell. But what I can say is that the dress it's quite small, quite petite in its size. It's possible, certainly in terms of the size of the dress, that this would have been something she could have worn on a catwalk. The bodice has been lined with a kind of corset inside. It's got just a little bit of structure, and that would have helped the wearer to feel put together without having to necessarily wear a lot of underclothes under the dress. And the first zip fastens the corset together, and then the second zip goes up the side of the dress. In addition to that inner corset, you can also see that the dress is lined, and that lining continues from just underneath the corset here all the way down the entire dress to almost the end of the skirt. The garment also contains these two straps, which would have been considerately included by the designer to go over the sides of the hangers to support the dress, but also give it that ease of storage for the client. For me, this dress sums up the skill of the House of Versace working with leather, that kind of Baroque sensibility of over-the-top embellishment, and also the kind of surprise element where you're combining a full-length evening dress with leather, which is often associated with day wear. And that leatherworking skill is something that's deeply rooted in Italy as a country, particularly Tuscany. It's an area known for leatherworking, and generations of families have worked in the tanning trade, in the leatherworking trade, and so a number of the large fashion houses based in Italy are able to draw on that knowledge. And to me, that's the kind of beauty of this design, is that it's been crafted in such a careful way, and the person who wore it would have felt super special when they walked out for the evening. For me, taking it out of the box today was like seeing an old friend. It's one of my most favorite pieces in the Viennese collection, so sharing it with you today was such a special treat.